Yes, you're welcome back as you join us here on this Sunday afternoon on the show. Our live game has just finished. That was Wasps 14, Munster 35. Alan Quinlan was on co-commentary duty. He joins us now from the commentary booth. Alan, I think a lot of people suspected Munster might go and do something here. Bonus point wasn't really on the agenda, so put that into context for us here, the extent of the achievement. I know Wasps, and we'll come to it, Wasps had travails of their own, not least even this morning. But even so, 35 points away from home, that's some going.
Yeah, it is, Joe. And I think if anybody told you during the week that this would be the case, you'd have said they were crazy. I think part of me always thought they had a good chance and that they would try and go and do something here and it would cause Wasps a few problems. But to get a bonus point win is unthinkable, really. And I thought the application, given the circumstances, of course, you can pick through the performance and say there was errors and mistakes and opportunities missed, and the scrum was a problem, and some of their decision making at times wasn't great. But the effort level and the energy they were trying to generate and was fantastic. It's an incredible result when you think of it. You can obviously mention the situation with Wasps. They weren't helped with their own injuries and probably the COVID situation. 4 of their starting team before the game and 1 off the bench, and then Brad Shields getting sent off. But part of me doesn't have any sympathy for him because I just didn't like the comments John Mitchell came out with during the week when he said we've no sympathy with him and we're not going to be fooled by this. And I just thought he was a little bit insensitive the way he spoke about the situation, given that you had lots of other coaches talking about it. I understand that he didn't want to be for Wasps to be hoodwinked here and that there was a completely different team going to come over from the one that Munster were actually going to play, because there was always the hope that some of the players in South Africa or some of the players who came home would be involved. But you know, the whole bench was they were all debutants, young players, and 6 players involved in the team then as well. I just think it's incredible the way it's worked out, and the credits to them all for trying to stick together. And I think it'll do Munster the world of good. I think we won't get ahead of ourselves and think this is an amazing performance because of the situation Wasps are in. But given the circumstances Munster were in the last 2 weeks, I just think it's incredible what's happened.
Yeah, for people who weren't with us for the start of the game, Connor was updating us on the team news. In effect, and you referenced it there, Wasps made 5 late changes to the team they named in advance of the game. So they lost both second rows, they lost a back row, they lost their number 10, and then they made 1 change on the bench. And that was all, well, I suppose this morning, last night maybe, when they would have been aware of that. So look, a level of disruption there for them for sure. You made a point during the commentary, Alan. You said some of these young players from Munster, they're a level below the academy players. People might not have a full appreciation here of just how far deep into the depth chart Munster were reaching. So these were a level below the academy players. Yeah,
they've gone to the national NTS players and the provincial talent squad as well. So these guys, some of them are in the academy. I think Tony Butler has been added to the academy recently, and some of these guys are on the academy, sub-academy. So when you consider what the amount of players that went to South Africa, Joe, to try and play those 2 games, a lot of them were academy players and sub-academy players as well. So the depth chart has gone right to the bottom here. You know, when you think of Patrick Campbell, you know, he wouldn't have featured here. He's been playing with Young Munster this year. It's been brilliant. You know, Mark Donnelly, John Ford, Conor Maloney, these guys, Ethan Coughlin, Jonathan Wren has been playing with Cork Con. So they hadn't even been training with Munster. They've been in and out of the squads, of course, and but they're not full-time players. They're training a lot, and they're part of the system.
Think we've lost you. You're back.
Because that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not good players, but
sure.
There's very little between them. But when you have young players like this who have to go and perform in a game at this level, I think it's remarkable what they've done.
Okay. So, I mean, look, an eventful first 30 minutes or so. The Brad Shields red card on Dave Kilcoyne. Red card for you?
I think so, and I think the problem he has, and when they look back at it, that last bit of force that he puts in, it's the last moment that the shoulder surges forward, it makes contact with the neck and head area of Dave Kilcoyne, and I think it's the correct call. I thought there might be a little bit of mitigation with Dave Kilcoyne dipping a little bit, but Roman Watt made up his mind that there was no mitigation there, and it's that force at the end that does it for me.
Okay.
If he accepts the challenge, it's not a red card, it's a yellow, but that last bit of force at the end, so it was a red card, yeah.
5 minutes after that, an extraordinary passage of play. Munster tried to run the ball from their own half in effect, and there's Peter O'Mahony runs a line and offload to Tyke Byrne, I think it was. Another offload to Keith Durrell's left-hand side. He boots the ball up the line. Wasps run, retrieve it, come back with interest. Joey Carberry has to chase back. You think Carberry might think to himself, well, I'll kick for touch here. Instead, Carberry decides to run himself, turned over. Wasps, danger out on the right-hand side. Peter O'Mahony, tired man, he's cut inside and Wasps score a try. That was a kind of, there was a frenetic, wild energy there. Either side could have scored. I don't know, should Joey Carberry have booted that out for touch and settle things down, or maybe it was in keeping with the spirit of the game to just go for it and have a cut. But either way, that was kind of wild. And that was Wasps back 7 points to 6 up after half an hour.
It was madness. It was a mad period of play. Really, you think Munster have Wasps pinned down in their own 22. They have a little snipe up the blind side and they get through. The ball is hacked up the field, as you say, and Carberry tries to run it out, and they get a penalty, and they turn the ball over and end up scoring from it. So it was end to end. Both sides were on either end of the field. Players all over the place, and
did that speak to the lack of organisation and the lack of cohesion? Like that kind of passage of play, is that as likely to happen if they have their usual 15s there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think the kick retreat is much better anyway, and I think kick retreat is a really important part of the game, that your reaction straight away when the ball is kicked down the field. I think it would have been probably sharper, more organised for both sides.
Yeah.
So I think it was a bit of a hammer blow, and it was a reaction from Wasps, and Munster looked a little bit deflated. They looked a little bit frantic at that moment in time, that period. And, I think, as I said at the start, you look back and there'll be moments in that game that they made mistakes and their decision-making was poor, some of the kicking. But Wasps got a little bit of a lifeline and a surge of energy there, and it showed that they're really dangerous. I think what Munster did then is they probably just made sure that they protected the defensive line around the breakdown and didn't allow Wasps get through them. If you're going to attack, try and get around them. You never want teams punching through holes, because that's when you get offloads and support players, and they just switched off a little bit. And it can happen when you have a team pinned back down their own 22. They had a desperation at times, Wasps, but Munster coped with that by and large for the rest of the game. And it's the reaction after half-time. Even before half-time, for them going down to 13 men, I think Owen O'Connor did brilliantly at the side of the breakdown to block the ball down. He wins it back in the ground, pops to the Tyke Byrne. He's close on scoring, but Dan Frost just comes straight in on the wrong side, kills the ball. It's a clear yellow, and he hurt his team. I think that really was the end of it for Wasps.
Right, okay. Owen O'Connor being their 6'8" lock alongside Tyke Byrne today, and he did well in that moment. So, as you mentioned, at this stage, second half starting, Wasps down to 13 men, one sent off, one in the sin bin. And I suppose very early on, 43rd minute, that moment where Patrick Campbell, Munster fullback, scores that try to put Munster 18-7 up. That's, I think, where you thought, oh, this is really on for Munster now. 18-7. Wasps into 13 men for the foreseeable, and then there'll still be a man down, and that's a decent lead. I mean, it was a poor kick from Carberry, hit the post, but Patrick Campbell, 19 years of age, it was a great Munster move, Quinny, down the right-hand side. There was a hell of a clean-out from Peter O'Mahony, which for a second you wondered, was it excessive? And they did check it. But it was really good Munster play. They went the other side of the field, flat lines, hips square, and in fairness to Patrick Campbell, he had men outside him, but he saw the gap and he backed himself. This is a guy who's played minor football for Cork, and he's playing in the IEL with young Munsters. There was a bit of gas there from the fullback.
There was, yeah, and there was. He's a lovely balanced runner. I think I've seen him play in the IEL, and he has the confidence to do that. And obviously, all these players would have been nervous before the game, Joe. You know, that's fully understandable. You're 19 years of age, you're going to Wasps and you're playing for Munster in a European game. And, like, how good will that be for this guy going forward? And these other players as well.
That could change his career in a sense that he could have been hanging around 3, 4, 5 years for a European shot like that very easily.
Yeah, it can happen. And look, I just thought, we can talk about him in a minute. Conor Maloney, I just thought he looked like a brute when he came on. John Ford as well, just getting really aggressively stuck into it. There's certain things you look at players, Joe, and you think, I like that. That shows me that there's a bit of grit. There's something there. And in the case of Patrick Campbell, obviously it's that balanced running that he has. This guy can accelerate. He's a really good footballer, and I just love that acceleration and that ability as a full-back to hit the line. And he's done it regularly in the AIL, but the acceleration through a gap, could have given the pass, accelerated through and showed the pace. So brilliant moment for him. A couple of moments in the first half where there's, Jimmy Goppert obviously is going to test him with high balls. He put himself in a position that they were spot on, he didn't take any of them clean. So I felt for him a little bit, and I thought, God, this Goppert is going to keep peppering balls down on him, which is the right tactic. Yeah. But the way he responded and made a couple of half breaks, made some good tackles, and that try was the icing on the cake for him.
Yeah, grew into it. 48 minutes, Andrew Conway pounces on dreadful Wasps play in midfield. Ball doesn't go to hand. Suddenly it's 7 points to 26. Munster and Dreamland. And then 58 minutes, Scott Buckley playing at number 2 for Munster. And there was huge pressure on that Munster front row, that young Munster front row, and we'll come to the scrummaging in a second. But Scott Buckley, it looked like a training ground move. So Ian Costello kind of, you doff your cap to him for that and for everything. Scott Buckley got man of the match, actually. So talk to us about his performance at hooker then.
It was very, very good. I think if you're looking at the basics, the line-out throwing was brilliant, spot on for the whole game. And I think they weren't just panicky throws out of Scott Buckley. They were top of the hand jumps, if you like, that O'Mahony and Byrne were winning. So his line-out throwing was spot on. I think collectively the scrum was a massive issue for them. Yeah. In a tighter game, it could have hurt them a lot. But
you were worried about James. You were worried about James French. There was a big ask on him today at tight head.
Yeah, a huge ask. He's converted from back row to loose head to tight head. Yeah. You're playing against someone who's Tom West is around a while. He's still only 25, but he's been in and around and been touted for England squads. Had an injury, he's been out for a while, but he's played this year, and he's a very good prop, Tom West, so it was always going to be a challenge. But I think as a unit, Scott Buckley, Dave Kilcoyne and James French, they struggled as a group together, not just one of them individually, because I think Dave Kilcoyne ended up being under pressure, which he's an international prop, and people say, well, it was him that was under pressure, but it's a collective thing. If your hooker is just a little bit off, both props struggle, and so all three struggled a little bit, and the whole scrum, second rows, back rows as well. Yeah. In a tighter game, it could have been really significant, and that was the worry coming into it, because the difference here when you go up the levels is not just brute strength for one scrum; it's the conditioning ability to be able to do it continuously. Yeah. And be at a level that you just have that farmer strength, if you like, to be able to lock out a scrum when needed and find that resolve. And that comes with maturity. And we've seen that with props that, 23, 24, 25, they're getting into their prime and they're getting into their full strength. But overall, he did really well, James French, around the field, made a lot of good tackles, carries. But, they're lucky in a sense that there wasn't any situation where the game was tight and one scrum or two scrums were going to decide it, because that would have been a major issue for them. So, an extraordinary day. I mean, one thing, I think even the Munster Twitter account even made the point that when Munster did empty the bench, and as you said, there had been anticipation in advance of today that maybe a bunch of the frontliners who were over in South Africa and did manage to get home would pitch up on the bench, that might be the saving grace for Munster. That didn't happen. This bench was unrecognisable, I think, to most casual rugby fans. Declan Moore, Mark Donnelly, Roman Salanoa, John Ford, Conor Maloney, Ethan Coughlin, Tony Butler, Jonathan Wren. These are not household
names. And even the Munster Twitter account made note of the fact that 3 of that bench, and they all got onto the pitch, were from Ennis. Now, Ennis isn't a rugby stronghold, so that suggests that there's been some decent work done in the province. This is a real fill-up, I think, for the whole organisation, Quinny, because there's a sense almost, I feel, with Munster of a little bit of doom and gloom and like drifting, and each season seems to have the same ceiling every time and nothing seems to be massively improving.
And, like, and the same faces.
Same faces, well, yeah. And now there's suddenly a sense that, hang on here, clearly work is being done across the province. 3 lads from Ennis coming through, and like some of these boys have held their own. Like suddenly to flood the kind of organisation with this youth and exuberance and everything. I mean, this doesn't mean Munster are going to win the European Cup. Doesn't mean a bunch of these guys are necessarily going to be Irish internationals. But I just think in terms of the mood around the province and for the fan base, this is a really great day.
Without getting ahead of themselves or any of us Munster people getting ahead of ourselves, this is bigger than just beating Wasps in a game. It was backs to the wall stuff. And we probably haven't mentioned this much, Joe, but there's a load of the players that went out today haven't played rugby in a long, long time. You know, Roman Salanoa hasn't been involved in a matchday squad for 2-3 months because of injury. You know, Dave Kilcoyne hasn't played for a long time. Chris Farrell has been out for months with injuries, you know, and you know, these guys go out then and you expect them to be their usual self. It's a challenge. If you don't play for 3, 4, 5 weeks, never mind 3 months, it's so much more difficult. And Chris Farrell had to get up and running in the last 10 days and say, you're going to be starting a European game. He's had an injury for a long time. You know, same with Roman Salanoa. They were probably saving graces that you have a bit of power and strength coming back and quality there. And then all the young players. But look, it's why Ian Costello has come back. And I think before him, Peter Malone did a lot of groundwork there. And there is a lot of work there. But, you know, there's sometimes a lack of knowledge about what's going on and the work that is being done by the development officers throughout Munster, and you know there's always a challenge, and you know you get compared to Leinster because of the depth chart and the school system, and it's something that they have had to put up with. Some of the criticism is justified, some of it is maybe lack of knowledge at times, but I think, as you said, and you make a very relevant point, this is bigger than just beating Wasps. Some of these guys mightn't have involvements now. Maybe they'll be involved for CAS next week because I still think that's an issue for Munster getting players back, but
it's good to know they're there. Do you know what I mean? There's a sense of rejuvenation there.
And what they do is people, you start believing there's a bit of depth. Like Owen O'Connor, would we have seen him this year? He's 6'7" or 8", second row.
Yeah. No, we wouldn't have seen him.
He's still only a child.
We wouldn't have seen him because the URC as well means there are fewer games. So this opportunity wouldn't have come for lots of them.
So now we're talking about, you know, that depth, and people start talking about these and maybe following the AIL a little bit more and watching some of these guys who are playing. Like I said, John Ford, Conor Maloney, you know, the energy and the aggression they brought on. I just thought there was something about Conor Maloney I just went, Jesus, there's a hardness and abrasiveness there, a bit of an attitude about him. He just wanted to get stuck in. And
what position was he, Quinny? Sorry.
I came on in the back row.
Right. So he just had it. Whatever it is, you liked it.
Yeah, I just liked that he wasn't standing back, and he smashed a few people on tackles, and so did John Ford. And I just think that's brilliant. That's exactly what you want to see. I always said this when I was 18, 19 or 20, even when I went into Shannon. You're nervous. Confidence was an issue with me. You believe you have the talent and you're a good rugby player and you want to make it, but at times I stood back and I was like letting somebody else make the big hit, like Anthony Foley, Eddie Halvey, Mick Galway, Brian Rigney. I was blessed that I played with these guys in Shannon when I started playing with them. But you're seeing 19, 20-year-olds now showing a little bit of attitude. Who knows? As you say, they mightn't go on and play for Munster regularly. They mightn't go on and play for Ireland. But it's just nice to see that today, that this is a European game, a very different European game.
Sure.
And we'll keep saying that. But
no, it's great.
It's incredible.
Yeah, no, it really is. I saw somebody tweet that maybe Peter O'Mahony had arguably his best day in a Munster jersey. Did he catch your eye?
Yeah, he did. And I think Tyburn, John Hodnett as well, he was just sensational that first half with some turnovers, Tyburn turnovers. Oh man, I just watched him with and without the ball. He was making a nuisance himself, winning vital rucks, making tackles, pressure every single time in the line-out on the opposition throw. And they're big things that we don't recognise. Wrapping up players and tackles, stopping their momentum. So he had a big game, a really big game, and I showed a lot of leadership, Peter O'Mahony. I think Tyburn as well, just really, he showed his quality. He showed why he's a British and Irish line out there, setting the standard, rolling the sleeves up and bringing guys on around him. And Daniel Okeke probably a little bit nervous at times to get his hands on the ball.
Number 8, yeah.
Yeah, but then when he gets it, he shows what he can do. He's a sidestepper, he's a fender, he's a powerhouse. So there's going to be more to come from him, definitely. But John Hodnett, and he's probably been around the squad for the last 2 or 3 years. What a player. Hard as nails, locks onto the ball, makes brilliant tackles. And again, he hasn't played for months, so big things right across the board. And even Conor Murray, I shouldn't even say even. Conor Murray is a class player. He's an international. He's a British and Irish line. Coming, we say, towards the end of his career. Who knows? Sure. He might play another 1, 2, 3 years. Who knows? Sure. But he's an experienced campaigner. He made some really, really vital tackles that just stopped Wasps in their tracks when they looked like they could break out or launch something. One of the things that surprised me was the kick chase was poor for Munster in the first half. With some of Conor Murray's box kicks were really good, and there wasn't really any kick chase there. I don't know, was that a tactic to just keep it a defensive line and invite them to run back at you? Maybe it was, but probably did kick away a little bit too much at times in the first half. But a really crazy situation for all these players, even the internationals, because probably there's more pressure on them, Joe, going over there thinking, we can't have bad games here because we'll be picked out and we'll be the ones that'll get the criticism. So I just thought the energy, there's mistakes for sure, but the energy out of all of them and the application was really impressive.
A few texts in. Mark Dunphy, as a Leinster fan, take my hat off to Munster. What a performance today. Brennan Gleeson, great stuff. Those young lads will be buzzing after the game. Leinster fan here, I quite enjoyed that. Fair dues to the Munster lads. Well done indeed. Geez, it's a nice day in Europe if even the Leinster fans are saying, well done. To be fair, to round things off, that's a cracking weekend for Irish rugby. We have seen Leinster and Connacht today with bonus point wins at home. Ulster last night, extraordinary win in Claremont, 29 points to 23. We had McCluskey and Timoney with the tries. John Cooney was man to the fore, kicked 19 points. JJ Hanrahan was very involved as well for Claremont, but that was a big win for Ulster. And so all of them, Connacht next week will be away to Leicester. Ulster will welcome Northampton. Northampton were dreadful on Friday night against Racing. So Northampton in Belfast. Munster will have Castres in Thomond. Leinster will breeze through the group stages, you would think, realistically. They've Montpellier Friday. So that's a really great start for the Irish provinces. We crib enough about rugby at times and where Irish rugby is, but I think you can kind of chalk that up as a great weekend.
Brilliant weekend. We can say, well, after November internationals, we have the World Cup in the bag. We know the European Cup in the bag, Joe. Probably the Six Nations as well, Grand Slam. It's all sewn up, really, isn't it?
Yeah, no problem.
No, look, nobody's going to get too far ahead of themselves. Sure. But I think, of course. And it does trickle down from the Irish side. That it kind of ignites a bit of a drive and an energy in the performances with the provinces, particularly in Europe. I was on with Adrian on Friday morning, and we're asking. I'm getting asked predictions. How many wins will we get? And
what did you say? What did you say? One.
I said Leinster and Connacht will win, and I said, look, I just don't know what's the story. I didn't think Munster would win, given everything that went on. Which again, you wouldn't be sectioned for that, or sectioned for saying that Ulster wouldn't win in Claremont. No. Both of them, of course, had a chance, but I just thought, for what happened today is crazy stuff, and it's incredible that they've gone and done that, Munster, and for Ulster, the consistency thing will keep coming up. So what will they do next week when they're home to Northampton? Will they bring that emotional edge with them? They have to now. They have to turn the corner with this. And if they're beaten in matches, that they're beaten with them kind of going down with a major fight or an energy or an intensity. Too often we've seen Ulster kind of get a big performance and then look a totally different team the following week. And I think they deserve it. I think they're trying hard. I think Dan McFarlane has done a really good job. I think Ulster fans have been starved of any bit of energy and success. And they're so passionate about their team. And I think they deserve it. That performance yesterday was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
You mentioned John Cooney. He got man of the match. I just thought McCluskey and Michael Lowry in particular, he was incredible. I just thought he was brilliant. And
it's great to see a fella of Lowry's physique
excelling
in the game, isn't it?
You're thinking of Chelsea Colby. He can be one of those, you know, and it's he was brilliant yesterday. And even some of the tackles he made against bigger, stronger guys, just knocking them to the ground. And, you know, Timoney was brilliant, Alan O'Connor. Vermeulen, you know, having a guy like that come in, even though he hasn't played in a couple of weeks and had COVID, just little subtle things that he did, pulling down mauls, breaking up, wrapping guys in tackles and stopping Claremont. So they never really let Claremont, bar the middle part. And I thought the reaction psychologically was brilliant.
Yeah.
When Claremont take the lead.
I thought once Claremont take the lead, that's that. But in fairness to them, they came back. We are crazily out of time, as our rugby coverage is with thanks to Vodafone, sponsors of the Irish team of us, everyone in. Alan Quinlan, I might add as well, I mean, there's all sorts there's disruption everywhere. You were a very, very late substitute. There were frantic phone calls this morning, and in fairness, thank you for answering and subbing in last minute to do the game. We appreciate it. Thanks very much, Quinny. See you later.
Cheers. Thanks, Joe.
Cheers. Alan Quinlan there. So clean sweep again for the Irish provinces, and that was our live game this evening. Munster 35 points to 14 winners against Wasps.
Off the ball on News.